Alright, I know some of y'all are probably wondering, Corin, where have you been for like the past couple weeks? And look, if I'm being honest, bro, I've been binging the first 3 seasons of Vox Machina, and I have been getting in a stupid amount of hours on Marvel Rivals. But I really missed y'all, and I'm kinda mad that I wasn't making videos throughout these last couple weeks because there was so much funny stuff going on. I mean, we're getting a new Spider-Man project that, look, if I'm being honest, this looks terrible. Then there's all the news about Beyond the Spider-Verse that looks like it's just never gonna come out, not only because they keep pushing it back, but also because the voice actor for Miles Morales seems to be one of the weirdest people ever to live. And we even got whatever this is. So there's been a lot of things going on in animation, but out of all this stuff, one thing that really caught my interest over the last week was this article that really sparked a lot of tension over the internet. And it was an article written about why Arcane was an overall failure. And I know, Arcane and failure in the same sentence doesn't even sound real. I mean, it's literally one of the most successful animated shows of all time. But if I'm being honest, the article brought up some points that even I had thought about myself when it came to the success of Arcane. And I think the article went on to open up a conversation about not only how unique Arcane is as a TV show, but also as a video game adaptation. So as the first video of the year, I wanted to cover this article, the response to it, and also give my thoughts on how successful Arcane actually was as a League of Legends TV show. Now look, for some reason if you made it this far into the video and you don't know what Arcane is, I'm honestly gonna say you're lying, but in the off chance that you're not, Arcane, or as the full title says, Arcane League of Legends, is a TV show based on characters from the League of Legends video game. The show doesn't officially have a main character, but basically the main plot of the show revolves around 2 orphan sisters, Vi and Powder, who through the course of multiple different tragedies end up taking 2 different paths in life as they both have to navigate this new world of war, science, and magic. Season 1 of Arcane came out in 2021, and to say this show was a massive success was an understatement. I mean, the first season of the show came out in a time period where people still looked at all video game adaptations as pure garbage. This was before the Last of Us TV show, before the Fallout TV show. Hell, we had only got the first Sonic movie at this point in time. And Arcane wasn't just a culture shock for video game adaptations, it was a culture shock for animation in general. The show was praised for having one of the most beautiful art styles that we had seen in years. And even though a couple years before Arcane came out, we had got Into the Spider-Verse, which was just a visual masterpiece. At the time when Arcane came out, studios were still not diving headfirst to make these artistic, more mature animated shows. But it was things like the Spider-Verse movie and Arcane and other projects that really pushed this new wave of animation. Now it goes without saying, I was a huge fan of Arcane when it came out. Hell, if you checked out my channel over the past month, it's basically been all I've been talking about ever since season 2 aired. And look, I'm not the only person, because season 2 of Arcane really took this series to a new level. Like, don't get me wrong, it was already really popular when season 1 aired, but season 2 made it massive. So massive to the point that I don't even know how happy I am about that, because now it is impossible to get Arcane merch. Art books sold out, Jinx Chomper can't find it anywhere, all the cool stuff on Riot's website sold out and retired. Bro, I did not have to deal with any of this when season 1 aired, but I think the lack of merch is just a testament to all the new fans that came after season 2. Because let's be real, for all the criticisms that people had, season 2 was fire. I mean, to this day, it is the only show in IMDb history to have every single episode rated a 9 or higher. If that doesn't tell you how good it was, I don't know what to tell you. And both seasons of the show were so well received that now multiple different Arcane spin-offs have been confirmed to be in the works and will be releasing in the future. So between the fantastic critical reception, the large increase in fan base, and the multiple different spin-offs that have been confirmed to be in the work, it is kind of shocking that out of nowhere an article came out essentially saying that Arcane as a whole was a failure of a series. But that's exactly what happened last week when Bloomberg put out an article titled "Riot's 25 million Arcane TV series was a Netflix hit and a financial miss." Now the main purpose of this article is to say that Arcane drew in a big audience but didn't bring in enough gaming revenue for the company Riot. The article went on to say when Riot Games first decided to make a TV show inspired by its hit game League of Legends, the video game publisher took the unusual step of developing and financing the project on its own. But Arcane went way over budget. Riot invested an unprecedented sums and years developing the project. All told, Riot spent about $25 million on 2 seasons of the series. Netflix paid Riot about $3 million an episode to air the show. And I'm not gonna lie, that's a crazy thing to think about. Like when you think of some of the most successful shows on Netflix, Arcane is definitely up there. So to know that Netflix only paid Riot $3 million per episode is crazy. That means all in all, Netflix only paid $45 million for both seasons of Arcane to air. And when you compare that to the $25 million that Riot put out to not only make Arcane, but to also advertising, I can understand why you would say Arcane seems like a loss. But while the article does insinuate that Arcane was a failure because it failed to break even, the biggest point they try to nail in is that Arcane is a failure because it failed to convert people into Riot's main moneymaker, that being League of Legends. They went on to report that the hope was that Arcane would fuel an increase in players of League of Legends and in turn a boost in spending. Riot makes significant revenue from the sales of skins of League of Legends characters, some which cost hundreds of dollars, but Riot failed to capitalize on the success of Season 1 with Arcane themed items, but had more time to do so ahead of the release of Season 2. Now if I'm being honest, this was a really weird article to me just because of how much it tried to emphasize the selling of skins as why Arcane was a failure. But something interesting that stuck out to me that I do believe has some truth to it is that Arcane's massive audience did not exactly convert over to League of Legends. Because for all the views that Arcane was getting, there's no real evidence that a majority of those people fled over and started playing League of Legends at any time. And this made me think about something that I was talking about a couple weeks ago, basically about how Arcane is so interesting when it comes to video game adaptations because it's so different from the thing it's adapting. Like over the last 5 years, there have been amazing TV shows that have all been based off of video games. And the number one trend that we've seen with almost every single one of these shows is that after the show comes out and is well received, the people who watch the show go flock towards the video games, and the video games get a new resurgence in popularity. Without a doubt, the best example of this is the anime Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Now for all my non-gamers, this was an anime based on the video game Cyberpunk 2077. And let's just say when the game first came out, it was one of the most hated things on the internet. The game had been hyped up for years, Keanu Reeves had a role in it, and when the game finally came out, it was practically unplayable. There were so many bugs, the game would literally crash on any system you played on. The game was literally so unplayable that I remember after it had been out for like a couple days or like a week or something like that, I remember they took it off the PlayStation Store so you couldn't buy it on PS5 anymore. And then for all the people that had bought it on PS5, Sony gave them a refund. Bro, Sony does not give refunds. That's how bad this game was. So it's safe to say once the studio that actually made Cyberpunk fixed the game and actually made it playable, majority of people didn't want to give this game a second chance. Even though there were people that tried it out and gave it some pretty good reviews. But then in 2022, in what seemed like a last chance effort to get people to play the game, Cyberpunk Edgerunners was released, an anime completely inspired by the world of Cyberpunk. I know me and a lot of other people only gave this anime a chance because we wanted to see how bad it was gonna be, because it was just kind of a running joke at the time to clown on Cyberpunk. But boy were we wrong, because this ended up being one of the greatest shows that I have ever watched. This anime completely took 2022 by storm, getting amazing reviews, building a massive fan base, and even winning anime of that year. And probably most shocking of all, it completely revived the reputation of Cyberpunk 2077, because now people were interested in the world of Cyberpunk and they were willing to give the game a second chance, and through giving it that second chance, most people found out that it's a really amazing game. I mean, the game went from being one of the biggest jokes on the internet to hitting overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. And none of this would have happened without the anime. And maybe not to the same degree, but we did see the same type of effect with the Fallout TV show and the Last of Us TV show. Now both of these games are completely different from Cyberpunk because they were already loved before their TV shows came out, but we did still see massive spikes of people running to go play the Fallout games and the Last of Us games after watching the TV shows. But when it comes to Arcane, it's actually a little bit different, because I would actually argue out of all the video game shows, Arcane might be the most beloved. But at the same time, it might have converted the least amount of people to play the video game that it's based off of. And I think there's a bunch of reasons for that, but I think the biggest one is Arcane isn't exactly the best adaptation when it comes to League of Legends. Now before you run to the comments saying, Corin, what are you, crazy? I'm not talking about the quality of the show Arcane. I think we can all agree that the show is fantastic. But when it comes to actually adapting the video game that it's from, Arcane is so interesting because unlike all the other shows that are exact one-to-one replicas, Arcane takes a completely new spin on League of Legends. It focuses on a small subsection of the characters in the game. It picked only one of the major regions to explore, and the show created an amazing story based off of that. And the funny thing is, no matter how much you like Arcane, there's really no guarantee that you're going to like League of Legends. I remember when season 2 of Arcane was airing, I made a TikTok talking about how I asked my friend who's a big League of Legends player, I asked him should I start playing League because I'm a big fan of Arcane, and he literally told me no. And his reasoning was that everything that I like about Arcane isn't the focus of League of Legends, it's just one small aspect. And there were so many people in the comments of that video saying that they played League for years and that they wouldn't recommend it to anybody who's coming from Arcane, which genuinely sounds crazy, but when I really think about the history of Arcane, it's kind of on brand. Because I remember when season 1 of Arcane came out, I didn't watch it for the first couple weeks when it was released because I didn't know anything about League of Legends. But then when I found out that you didn't really need to know anything about the show to actually understand it, I gave it a shot. But while I personally didn't want to watch it at first because I had never played League of Legends before, there were genuinely people that just didn't want to watch Arcane because it was related to League of Legends. And the only reason they gave the show a chance was because people were pleading with them saying, oh man, it's nothing like League, it's so amazing, you just gotta check it out. That's actually insane that the selling point for Arcane for a lot of people that I even know, is that it's nothing like League of Legends, the thing that it's literally based on. And this wasn't just a small conversation that was going around on the internet. I was constantly seeing this being brought up like all throughout season 1 and all throughout the 3 weeks while season 2 was airing. People were constantly asking, bro, do you think I should give League a try? And then some OG League of Legends player would pop out and be like, bro, save yourself, don't do it. Even y'all do it. Y'all were doing it to me while I was reporting on Arcane season 2. I literally said in almost all of my Arcane season 2 review videos that, bro, the show's just so good, it's genuinely making me want to download League of Legends. And there were so many of y'all in the comments saying, bro, don't do it, I'm telling you, don't do it. And something that was so funny to me was that at the Video Game Awards this year, Arcane was nominated for Best Video Game Adaptation. And I think the Game Awards were just 1 week after Arcane season 2 finished airing, so there were so many people that just automatically assumed that Arcane was going to win. But I was really thinking the entire time that it was going to come down to Arcane and the Fallout TV series, and I was really leaning towards the Fallout TV series. And unsurprising to me, Fallout ended up winning the award. Now after the Game Awards, there were so many Arcane fans that went online to say that Arcane was robbed of the award, but I didn't understand this narrative because the entire time Arcane was airing, everybody praised it for being so different from League of Legends. From the character designs to the focus to the lore. Genuinely think about the fact that Arcane was so different from League of Legends lore wise that Arcane wasn't canon at first, and then when Arcane became so popular and so successful, they changed the League of Legends lore to fit around Arcane and made Arcane canon. So if the award was for best video game show, Arcane would have won it hands down. But as far as best video game adaptation, I don't think Arcane really fits that category. So focusing back on the article, when it talks about Arcane not being able to convert players over to League of Legends, that might be something that I could actually believe. And look, this article sent Arcane fans into a frenzy when it first came out, because we live in a time where even though people love animated shows, animated series, it's very clear that it isn't respected by all studios and all companies. There have been countless times where there have been animated shows that have been beloved by fans, but when it's time to save money, they're the first ones to get canceled. So an article essentially trashing Arcane, saying that it was just a waste of money and a huge failure, made many fans worried, especially since a couple weeks before this we had just got confirmation that there were going to be multiple Arcane spin-off shows. And it made a lot of fans worry, wondering, are we still going to get these shows? Well, luckily only a day later, Riot's co-founder would actually respond to these claims of Arcane being a failure. He went on to say, people who look at the world through a short-term, transactional, cynical lens really struggle to understand Riot. This has been true with various people trying to claim that high-quality free games won't work, that esports will never work, that our music was insane, are now saying that Arcane wasn't awesome and worth it. These people think we make things like Arcane to sell skins, when in reality we sell skins to make things like Arcane. To be clear, Arcane crushed for players, and so it crushed for us. And this might be one of the coolest responses for any Arcane fan to hear, because like I said before, it's so common for companies to cancel animated shows for any reason. So to have the CEO of Riot come out and basically say that the main purpose of doing Arcane isn't even for profit, it's to make art, is a crazy thing to see. And to be clear, the CEO of Riot does go on to say that Arcane was profitable enough to continue continue with the spin-offs, and it is on track to break even, while also stating that the previous month when Arcane aired was one of League of Legends' best months in a while. So it seems like Arcane actually did convert some players over to League. And I think the line that's most important in the message from the CEO is that he says Arcane crushed for the players, so it crushed for us, which basically just lets you know that they're doing this because they care. They're doing this to please their audience. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why Arcane was so good and why people are so excited for these spin-off shows. So I think it's safe to say that this article was really a bunch of nothing, and bro, I am so excited for these new Arcane shows. I can't wait to see Demacia get animated. But this was just a quick little video that I wanted to put out, and I said as a New Year's resolution that I wanted to put out a video every 3 days, so I'm gonna try to do that. But if you made it to the end, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and until then, it's been your boy Corin, and I'm off this.